In the world of gardening that you and I love so much, right now is the most exciting time of the year. The sun is shining, and the harshness of winter is in the rearview mirror. And the window between that said winter and the coming spring is a furious frenzy of planting, seeding, and sprouting. It's hard to believe it, but it's seed starting time again. It's right about now that prepared planters are seeding their trays in anticipation of that summer bounty. If you're a new grower, welcome to our version of crazy time. Crop selection, space determination, calendar dates, and unlimited variables. Wait, wasn't gardening supposed to be fun? It is, trust me. But it's infinitely more fun the more success you have. So today, I got 7 seed starting tips to ensure your best start to a gardening year yet. Grab your favorite drink, pull up a chair. This is going to be a good one. Okay, yeah, there's a lot riding on what you do now for the success of your garden later this year. Obviously, the seeds we plant today are going to be the crops of tomorrow. But what you'll soon find out is that there's a large margin for error. Crops can be resown, and seeds are cheap. Not only that, if you're worried that you planted too late, crops can be sped up to make up for the lost time. And if you planted them too early, well, there's tricks we can do to slow them down as well. Don't stress. Nothing is permanent. Some crops are going to fail or give you subpar results. And some crops are going to do better than you thought possible with endless bounty. Having said that though, doing all that you can to ensure seed starting success is going to greatly improve your chances at the overall crop success. Definitely not going to argue there. But why do we need to start seeds early indoors anyways? In some cases, like when you're growing carrots, you don't. Direct seeders like our carrots and beets simply skip that indoor seed starting process altogether. But in a lot of situations, starting your seeds early indoors can provide superior results. And I got 3 reasons why. One is when your growing season is shorter than the plant's life cycle. If you have a tomato plant that needs 120 days of summer weather and you only get 80, you're going to want to start them early indoors. That head start could be the difference between having no harvest versus unlimited bounty. 2, we get a head start. Now, a little less imperative than the crop absolutely needing the time to grow, but with a head start, we'll get an earlier harvest, possibly allowing us to double up on an area. So instead of one and done, we're now planting multiple crops in the same location within a season. And the third reason we plant seeds indoors is viability. The longer the plant is alive and healthy, the greater the chance it has to produce. Planting well-started specimens gives you kind of a guarantee that you're going to see a return on investment. Because the most fragile and precarious stage of life for a plant is this right here. And that part will already be complete. So it makes sense to start our seeds early. It's why we all do it. But it doesn't make sense for all plants. Hey, for a hot take on direct seeding versus starter plants, check out this garden quickie here. It covers it all. Okay, we know that it's beneficial to start our seeds early indoors. Where the heck do we start? Well, we start with the most important part of growing anything, and that's soil. The right soil is going to affect 2 key aspects of seed starting: germination and the growth after. The reason is, seeding soils are slightly different than regular potting soils in a few ways. They're generally finer, with less coarse debris, lighter and more airy, as well as they contain less nutrients. Not only is the growing medium we choose going to directly affect how high our germination rates are, but it's also going to affect how well those young seedlings do, how well they grow afterwards in those really important first couple of weeks after sprouting. The funny thing is, seeds are going to sprout in just about anything. And that includes water or even damp paper towel. You see, this is because the seed itself has everything it needs to grow for the first part of its life. Roughly 1 to 2 weeks after initial germination. After that, the roots kick it into high gear and the shoots do their thing with the light. The best soil mixes are the ones that have enough nutrients to carry those young seedlings on for another month or so before any supplementation is needed. If you're making your own, it's 50% compost, 50% coconut fiber with a sprinkle of perlite or vermiculite. That's all you need. Like we said, actual seed germination doesn't even need soil at all. You see, germination is a function of moisture and heat. That's it. Moisture is taken up by the seed coat in a process known as imbibition, and it causes it to crack. This lets more water inside and stimulates enzymatic processes to begin. i.e., life. It's actually pretty amazing. And after millions of seeds later, I can say that it still truly is. So, to get these seeds here to activate, we need them to be moist, but not underwater. The plants and their roots still need air, and anaerobic conditions are going to doom your seedlings. And it all goes back to your soil. You see, it must hold on to a significant amount of moisture, but it must also be able to drain the excess. The absolute easiest way to get perfect moisture for your soil every time is to soak your soil from below for about 2 hours. Let it take up as much as possible and then plant your seeds. It literally works for every crop. Moving on to tip number 3, and we just touched on it with germination, is temperature. Heat. Seeds have a preferred temperature range for optimal germination. Warm weather crops like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and eggplants, they germinate best between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's good to know because these are the plants we're most likely germinating right now. Cooler crops like your brassicas, such as this kale here, and most lettuces are about 10 degrees cooler than that. And speaking of cooler, while 75 to 85 is optimal for germination, you're going to want to drop that temperature shortly after sprouting. Usually when the plants get their first set of true leaves. So for these peppers here, that's going to be in a few days. The rule of thumb is, once your plants get 1 to 2 sets of true leaves, drop that temperature about 10 degrees. You want it to be the high 60s to low 70s. It sounds backwards because you used all that heat to get these guys sprouted, but it's true. Okay, now that your soil and conditions are all set for planting, what the heck do we plant in? The answer is easy: anything. If it can hold soil and freely drain water, you can plant a seed in it. Pots, plug trays, 6-packs, paper cups, heck, we can even cut up paper towel rolls and make little biodegradable pots out of them. The seeds in the plants don't know any better, nor do they care. If the temperature, moisture, and air requirements are met, you can grow in anything. Check this out. Not gonna lie, I grew lettuce inside of a cantaloupe once. Seriously, I planted lettuce inside of a hollowed out cantaloupe, and it grew perfectly fine. Use what you have if finances are tight, and spend the money somewhere else. Okay, time to plant. Or is it? Are we too early? It's still really cold out. Or are we too late, and our garden hopes are dashed for the year? The answer is neither. The hard, fast rules of certain dates being the only time that you can plant are neither fast nor hard. For sure, you're going to get to a point on your calendar where it's too late for summer crops. No question. And definitely, you can plant way too early, ending up with giant lush plants that are impossible to deal with. But to get to either of those extremes means you're probably ignoring common sense anyways. The rule of thumb for most warm weather plants that we're planting early right now is to start them about 6 weeks prior to your last spring frost date. Like we said, that date is different for every region. Simply look it up to find yours. The last frost date for my area is March 16th. Today is March 18th. That means I should have been planting these tomato seeds 6 weeks and 2 days ago instead of today. You see, it's just a suggested window. I'll be okay. These guys are fast growers and they're very reliable. Try to plant within your window of suggested time and you'll have the best success. But if you fall outside of that range of dates, within reason, don't stress about it too much. Not going to say that timing isn't important, because it is. Use the dates as a guideline, especially if you're just starting out. And then evolve, take notes, and do what works best for your setup as the gardening seasons go by. And of course, we can't plant anything without the seeds themselves. You can buy seeds locally, online, or you can start collecting and saving your own seeds once you start growing. Be aware that seeds do have a shelf life, and viability does go down over time. But the beauty of starting our seeds early is that we can plant more than we need if that germination rate is a worry. And we can always start over again with a different source if that batch fails to sprout. Yes, seeds are important, but they're relatively cheap. Or, in the case of these cilantro seeds here, free, because I saved them myself. So we can keep trying again and again till we get the results we want. And finally, our last tip to ensure seed starting success is depth. It cannot be overstated. Planting depth is very important for seeds, whether you direct sow out in the garden or you start them early indoors, like we're doing here today. Fortunately, it's not knowledge we have to go hunting for. The information we need is on every seed packet. You'll find that while peppers and tomatoes generally get planted close to the surface, around 1/4 inch deep, your cucumbers and zucchinis are going to be planted a full 1 inch deep. Again, not something you're ever going to have to memorize, because the seed packets are always going to have that information available for you. And the technique for getting that correct depth is easy. I use 2 ways to plant my seeds. Let's plant out a tray right now so that we can see that depth and all the tips that we covered here today in action. I mostly use the 1020 Pro spieling trays for all my seedlings. It produces a great size plug, and it's widely accepted to be the standard for starting high numbers of seeds. Now, if your mix is as light and fluffy as mine, you can pack it down with your fingers like I do. Add some more mix to the top, and then level it off. Remember how important moisture is. Soak the soil from below and let it take up as much as it'll hold. After 2 hours, our light, dusty mix is most certainly seed ready. There's 2 ways to plant most seeds. You can pre-make the holes to the depth required by the plant type, which is very easy and fast to do. Or you can place the seed right on top like this pea here and simply push it down. Either way, same result. Large seeds like peas and zucchinis, it ends up you have to push them down a little bit anyway. It's a breeze to seed up these 100 cell trays. Seed starting should be fun and therapeutic, not a chore. With this setup, hundreds and hundreds of seeds can be started in under 20 minutes. Give your warm summer crop temperatures between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And your cooler crops like lettuce and kale, about 10 degrees cooler than that. Artificial heat mats work perfect for this. I'll sometimes put on a clear dome cover to create greenhouse-like conditions. It's not 100% necessary, but man, they do work. Within a week or so later, you'll see the first sprouts poking through, and you're off to the races. Seed starting season is exciting, if not a bit daunting. Hopefully these 7 tips take the edge off any apprehensions you might have had to get started, or maybe correct some of the inconsistencies that you've had in the past. There's no question that starting your seeds early indoors is an annual rite of passage for most of us growers. And you're probably going to be faced with it at some point in your growing career. However, using the 7 methods that we talked about today is going to ensure maximum germination. And that's always a great way to start the year. Happy growing. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate the support more than you know. And if you're getting value from these videos, please like and share them to spread the word and help your fellow gardener to grow better.